So you guys posted on our When Evil Lurks video, and several of you commented and said we should watch Terrified. So we're watching Terrified, and we got a review coming up for you in 1 second.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
I'm a OD boy. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my side. Know that they ride or die. I keep boys by my.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another I'd Popcorn for That review. I am Chris.
I'm Nick.
And like I said, today we are doing a user-suggested video. So a handful of you guys commented on When Evil Lurks, said we should watch Terrified. It is the same director. I get the reason you would suggest that. It is also on Shudder, so freely available to watch. And we checked it out. So I didn't know really anything going into this. The only thing I knew was a little image of what looks like a dead boy sitting at a dinner table, and that was really more than I would have liked to know. Actually, I kind of would have just gone into this completely blind, but here we are. Give us a little background, like how does this thing start, and what's the setup here?
It kind of starts off with like this woman just looking into a drain, and it's kind of bubbling, and you hear some moaning coming out of it. She's kind of scared by it. It's real creepy. And then her husband gets home, and she tells him that she's hearing voices, and they're telling her that they're gonna kill her.
Mm-hmm. Which I don't know if that was like not translated, or if it's just you don't really hear them saying that. You just like you hear her saying it afterwards. But I felt like there was something being said in there that they didn't give me a translation for. So I guess she was hearing it say it's gonna kill her.
Gets a little paranormal after there. You hear some banging around, and some things happen, and then you kind of does a little time skip into the future, then goes back to like events that happened leading up to. I guess it's early in the movie. We'll spoil it. She dies.
Yeah, this part I feel like is just set up for the story. I
Yeah.
don't want to spoil everything here, but this was kind of the setup. So, this guy is, I guess, in prison, or he's locked up, and these three, we presume, like paranormal investigators are here telling him they believe him, that he didn't kill his wife, and we just need proof. So that's kind of the setup, is like what's going on in this neighborhood, who are these people, and why do they believe this guy so easily? And I gotta say, it felt like after, having watched, I don't guess it matters which way you watch them, but having watched this and When Evil Lurks, it kind of feels like Demián Rugna, the director here, is operating in the same, is his own universe, and it's the same universe to me. So that's the way my head was taking this anyway, because there's sort of a visual language that they both have in common with the brass, like alchemy looking tools that they use, and also just the seriousness and like the reality of it. Like it's a very grown up horror movie in the sense that everything's taken very seriously, and there's like, these people aren't Ghostbusters. You know what I mean? Like they're not coming in with, it doesn't look like what you think of as a normal paranormal investigation. It looks like this is a world where paranormal investigations, though rare, are taken very seriously, and it's a real thing. And there's not a ton of questioning of this beyond just like the guy's in prison, but I think we don't even know where his wife's body is. So it's like we had to do something. There's no proof of anything paranormal happening here, but it feels like, well, we could prove some paranormal stuff would happen, and like people would believe that because we're in a world where that happens. So
Yeah, and there's
I don't know if you were kind of getting that too.
Yeah, because they imply that her body, that she went missing, but there's blood all over the bathroom from where she died. And I was wondering too if it like maybe is kind of the same universe, but in this one it could have been, but in this one it's more like it seems like trans-dimensional beings or something. But that could be demons.
I took it as like this is different paranormal events taking place in the same universe, and there's like different ways to handle them, but like the equipment and stuff that they use in this feels like it's written in the same font as
it looked very similar.
Yeah, the tool that we never got. And this guy has a vibe about him. Like I feel like watching just these two movies, I feel like there's a language to his storytelling that they reminded me of each other without having like direct comparisons I can draw. It feels like the same kind of movie. It feels, like I said, very serious, and not, there's not a joke in this. There's nothing to lighten the mood or anything like that. Again, just like with When Evil Lurks, you're left with questions after this that they don't want you to really know the whole answer to. It's just like, yeah, I know. If you were there, you wouldn't get all the answers either.
Right. And so,
not like you have 1,000 questions at the end of this, but there is stuff where it's like, ooh, I don't really fully get every detail of that, but it's effective.
yeah, man. I watched this last night, Halloween night, and I was just
Hmm.
like alone by myself in the dark. And so my living room is on the other side of these shutters,
Hmm.
and it's like so I have these shutters to my back while I'm watching this creepy movie. And it
Yeah,
got me a couple of times, man, because like the creature design was really creepy, and then there are a few jump scares in there, which is fine. And they definitely got
handled
me.
well.
Yeah, they got me,
Yeah,
man.
we complain about jump scares, but sometimes they can be handled well. It's just that it's gotten like abused.
Yeah.
But you can do a jump scare right, and I think this does it right. And I will say, to add to that, to me, this is a more effectively scary movie than When Evil Lurks. When Evil Lurks is like disturbing imagery, haunting, sticks with you. It's
Mhm.
dark, it's brooding, everything. It's hopeless. But this is maybe a little bit less of that slow, helpless burn and more of like there's an immediacy to this. Like you don't have to wait very long at all to get into the blood and gore of this, and it moves along at a pretty quick clip. Like this movie's not even a full hour and a half long, and everything just really happens fairly rapid fire. I mean, and you're even in that short amount of time, these characters are built out, so you do kind of get a sense of who all these characters are, even in that quick time. So I think that's a bigger challenge than it looks like on paper. Making you feel like you kind of know some of these characters in such a short time frame. I think that worked really well, and the storytelling aspect is handled differently than When Evil Lurks, because here we've got this, like, we're kind of flashing back and forth with this man in prison, we know falsely in prison for the murder of his wife, and these paranormal investigators and what's going on with them. And there's also I think one of them is a former police officer, and then one of them is like
He
the
was like,
sheriff or the deputy or the something.
yeah, one of them. He's like the former medical examiner or something,
Right.
who
Yeah.
like had some paranormal things happen while he was investigating, so, or like going through some corpses and stuff.
So Maxi Guion is the police commissioner Funes. So he is the current police commissioner, but he's got some kind of illness that I don't know if they really fully break down for you. But he's gonna retire in the next few months. And then we've got Jono, and Elvira Oneto plays Maura Albrecht, and she's kind of like the figure who has this training to kill demons in When Evil Lurks. But this is more with spirits, or like you said, interdimensional beings, or beings that exist in two dimensions at one time.
Yeah,
It's not fully fleshed out, but I think they give you enough to just make you. I think it's supposed to just make you unsure about what kind of situation we're dealing with here. There were some moments in any horror movie you're going to be able to point out occasions where it's like, why would they do it that way? But the
yeah,
reason they do it that way is because horror movie is about to happen. But two things stand out in my mind immediately, and I might think of more, but when they are, well, just in general, so that we have a young boy. Again, if you don't want to know more about this movie, stop here. But we have a young boy who was hit by a bus, which it seems like there's some kind of intentionality to it, like the demon wanted the kid to get hit by the bus because
hmm
the kid's getting like shooed away from a house and backs up, and this bus hits him, which was a shocking thing, and I don't know why I didn't expect it
I
as a
didn't.
horror
Yeah,
movie, but it took me off guard. He gets hit by that bus, and then soon after that, it's like, and we do get a little foreshadowing of this with a story about a dog. Like, remember that dog we hit? The dog's alive. Like, good thing we didn't bury him. And I
right.
was like, that's gonna come back. The kid gets hit by a bus. He's buried. The funeral happens. Everything. This guy the guy who is being investigated at the beginning of this movie is at the funeral. He knows the people involved. And this is I don't know if it's the son of the police commissioner, but it's his ex-girlfriend who is the mother. So this is
Yeah,
presumably his kid. I don't know why they didn't
they
fully fill
didn't.
that in for us.
They didn't fill it in, but I feel like it wasn't because I feel like he would have been more upset of the fact of the kid dying, and also what happens after the fact. He would have been
Yeah,
more creeped out. I mean, obviously he was messed up by it, but like seeing your son in that situation would have been
it would
different
be
than.
worse. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
we're not supposed to think it's his son, but they don't give us more information there, but that's okay. But he's like presumably come back. He is like there's muddy footprints and handprints and everything leading him back to the house, and here he sits at the dining room table, still looking like a rotting corpse, very much acting like a rotting corpse. He's not moving or anything,
yeah. He
but there is
made
this
himself a
trail.
bowl of cereal and a glass of milk though, or something.
Or somebody, maybe I didn't know if it was supposed to be like his mom made that for him or what,
Yeah.
but she's obviously beside herself, freaked out. I mean, she's like disassociated entirely, and ends up passing out, falling asleep. And the way they investigate this corpse kid who presumably moves, the kid, the police have seen him move. There's all these muddy footprints. The way they're handling him, like getting so close to his face, putting stuff under his nose to see if he's breathing, all this stuff. I'm like, I would not be that close.
And that was like
And,
a really good part they did, because like besides the jump scares, just the tension in those scenes, like the kid sitting at the table, just waiting for him to move. They turn off the lights and something.
Yeah, I was gonna say he hits the lights, and I'm like, why did you do that, dude?
Yeah.
Keep all the lights on in the world,
right?
I would never turn off a light around this freaky kid. And then the milk tips over, and we're like, okay, this is. But they do a lot of like leaving that dead kid alone in a room by himself. I'm like, you guys really haven't watched a lot of horror movies. But yeah, all that was handled well. The scares throughout this are consistently effective, and I can't count this as a con. There are some moments where some things look, you can tell it's like CGI or this has been helped along with something. But I imagine with the budget this had, this is probably above and beyond what you would expect with the kind of budget they had. So I forgive all of that easily. I mean, in the moment even, I'm forgiving it because it still works very effectively. But like, I'm thinking of one particular scene with a crack in the wall. Do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
It happens so fast. It's almost like it only happens, like it doesn't even happen in as many frames. As
Yeah,
the
it
rest of the movie.
seemed a little off, but I
It's like a little choppy, but it makes it happen so jarringly quick that I think it's just as effective as it would have been if more money had been thrown at that. So you got to kind of meet people where they're at. And this director, I'm sure, was not given $1 million to make this movie or whatever I don't know what his budget was. And I think Shudder is the thing that brought this to the U.S. So you couldn't even see this on a theater. Mm-hmm.
I really liked how the play on these like dimensional beings was like light and dark as well. So it's like if you look at an angle from a certain angle, you don't see it, but if you look at it from this angle, you do see it. And like, man, the design on like each one had its own individual design, and they were
different
all
levels of creepiness.
Yeah.
But some of them are extremely haunting imagery here, and just that whole the atmosphere of like we don't know exactly what's going on, we don't know what we're interacting with. It almost seems like it has a magnetic element to it at points, like it's moving metal around. But sometimes it's more like just a ghost or a poltergeist moving things around the room. But then also you see it as, like you said, it depends on what angle you look at it, whether you can see it or not. And sometimes you'll see something moving on its own, and then at a different angle, it's just a guy, I guess a dead guy. I guess this is dead people coming back, but they're like stuck in this interdimensional space. So sometimes it's just like a big, giant, tall, naked, creepy dude moving the bed. But yeah, a lot of effective imagery all throughout this. Like I said, maybe even more so than When Evil Lurks, and maybe a more scary movie. And everything with the paranormal investigators, I thought was handled super well, and that gives you like a nice like lore to work with throughout this. For the most part, I have all positives to say about this. I think this has really solidified Demián Rugna as somebody to watch out for.
Yeah, definitely.
I guess everybody else that had seen Terrified already and then watched When Evil Lurks next is already on that same train. But yeah, I'll be waiting for the next thing this guy comes out with for sure. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to say, the soundtrack here, it looks like was done by Demián Rugna as well.
Yeah, and it was really
good. I think the soundtrack is really cool, like something unique here. Like it's
real grating on a lot of the parts of it.
It's almost cranked up and blasted to the point that you feel like your speakers are breaking.
Yeah,
at like a normal volume, like it's like blasting, it's like blowing out your speakers, but not really.
Yeah, it makes it real unsettling.
When things get really intense, like the music is so intense, it just drowns out. You can't even hear people speaking over top of this extreme noise. I got to give props to the soundtrack. I don't know if this guy's a trained musician as well, or if he just started making scores for his movies or what, but good job on that for sure.
The transdimensional beings. Like they take over people's bodies is what it seems like, but it seems like you might be able to save them, or it might have just been a ploy, because like at one point the lieutenant, the cop, is like, I'm out of here, I'm done, I've seen too much. And you see, and this part creeped me out, man. It reminded me of like, I don't know why it reminded me of this, but like it reminded me of when in Signs the alien walks across for the first time in like the birthday party. Okay, I remember seeing that as a kid and like being like, whoa, and like punched my cousin in the face on accident.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of not running, but quickly coming towards his car, like slams the hands on it, and she like is bent over backwards in this creepy way. Just
It reminded me. Do you remember this? You saw Smile, right?
yeah.
Do you remember the scene on Smile where they run up to the window and it's like blue? You
Hmm.
know what I'm talking about? The
Yeah.
neck and everything. Yeah, there's a few scenes in horror movies throughout the years where you have somebody like kind of run up to the window and then somebody drives away. But I thought this one was super effective, and you can tell a lot. You know, it's almost redundant to say this if you've seen our review of When Evil Lurks, but the practical effects here, I gotta hand it to them. Whatever is CGI here, for the most part, 99% of the time is like seamlessly blended here, and even at the beginning when it looks like, it's almost like, okay, I guess she's being slung around on like wires, or they just like, digitally erase the wires or whatever. But it's so effective in the moment that it doesn't matter that I can kind of figure out in my head like how they do this, and it doesn't look, it looks like that's how they did it and everything. When you're watching it, it doesn't matter because it's handled so well.
Yeah, it was super creepy.
You know what I'm talking about in the shower scene. It's like it is kind of like somebody just being strung along on strings, but they do it so well. I couldn't even tell I can't tell what level of that is practical. Like, is that even a real person or is that like a dummy?
Yeah, it was hard to tell.
Really well done. Yeah, a lot of praise. I gotta heap on this thing. So yeah, keep them coming, Demián Rugna.
Yeah,
you're doing it right.
I want to check out some of his other stuff. I mean, he's made other movies too. I don't know where to find him. I'll have to look into it.
I'll watch everything I can find for sure. Yeah, really, it's cool watching branching outside of American horror because you really get some different. Not only is this told in a different language, but sometimes it's told in a very different visual language or a very different. It's just there's things you're going to get different with different cultures. So
yeah, and they have all different types of lore and stuff of cryptids and all that.
Yeah, he's so good at world building. This guy, like, it really makes it feel like you're in a world where things are different. The rules are different here in this world. I could keep saying more about it, but I don't have a lot of negatives to talk about. So that's about my review. What would you score this thing?
I'd give it like an 8.5. Like I said, man, I was creeped out. I was just in here by myself and looking around. It was creepy, man. It got me.
Yeah, if you want something to genuinely scare you, you could do a heck of a lot worse than this for sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. I'd say 8.5, maybe 9. Yeah, certainly a high score from us. Not much to improve here. We'll see the holdovers at some point. We got other things coming up. It's gonna be a surprise. You're gonna love it. Yeah, we appreciate you guys watching as always. Please consider hitting subscribe if you have not yet. We're on our way to 100 subs, but that's a goal we're trying to get to before the end of the year, and would certainly be happy to exceed. So hit subscribe if you can. Share this with your friends if you know somebody that gets something out of this. And hit like on this video. That helps us out a lot. And also comment down below. Let's get a conversation going on down there about horror movies, about this director, about next video you want us to make. Like I said, this was a user suggested video, so you never know. Your comment might be the next thing we talk about. Yeah, thanks for watching. Check out our other videos, and we'll see you in the next one, guys. Thank you.
See ya.